Spiritual Life, A Perspective. Chapters 4 and 5 of 11 chapters. Thanks and gratitude to the Divine Life Society. The Divine Life https www.7ondaonline.org. Divine Life Society Spiritual Life, A Perspective. Chapter 4. 4. Liberation 4.1. What is liberation? Saint Francis of Assisi ends his world-famous prayer with the words, "And it is in dying to the little self that we are born to eternal life." Another mystic said, "Then shall I be free, when I shall cease to be." So, the essence of darkness, of bondage, ignorance and slumber would seem to be the feeling that one is a certain specific individual with a name and form, a date of birth, a height and weight, with a certain personality and an ego, and, they say, until that is got rid of, liberation is a far cry. Swami Sivananda himself said, "Kill this little I, die to live, let the divine life. Within you is hidden God, within you is the immortal soul, an ocean of bliss and a fountain of joy. All this we are not able to perceive. But why?" Gurudev says that you are not experiencing the hidden God because you are so much preoccupied with this little I and are so much involved, entangled, overpowered and overwhelmed by it. It is like a fire that is completely obscured by thick, black smoke. Thus Gurudev says that due to so much preoccupation with the little I you are not able to see the bliss and joy. So, once again, this little I or ego must be killed. How is this to be done? By leading the divine life. The two words that imply bondage are I and mine. As long as our nature is characterized and dominated by this I, especially if it is self-assertive, aggressive and violent, then such a life is spiritual death. This is why the ancients said, "From death, O Lord, take us unto immortality." This could not be a reference to the body, because the body is not going to be immortal. What then is the mortality and immortality that are being referred to? Mortality has to do with the ego-ridden life, which actually constitutes spiritual death. This ego-characterized human personality is the transient unreality. To rise up from this to the reality is to be aware of ourselves as part and parcel of the cosmic soul divine in nature, beginningless, beyond time and space, without name and form, birth and death. This awareness is truth. It is the reality. It is light and immortality, liberation, salvation, enlightenment, or any name you might give to it. It is possible to attain God, to attain liberation if the intense desire to do so occupies your heart as the first and foremost of all desires and wishes that you long for. If liberation is your top priority and it fills your heart, mind and intellect, and all other wishes come after it, then nothing in this universe can prevent you from attaining liberation in this very life. This is for sure. Let us be practical. Does this mean that one should cease wishing or working for anything else? It is not absolutely necessary, and it is not absolutely possible either. As long as you are in this body, you have to work for food, Clothing and shelter for the body has its hard demands. So, taking care of the body's minimal wants is something that no one can afford to totally deny or ignore. If you inwardly give up everything, yet on the outer plane exert to attain what is essential to survive and work out your liberation, then the body does not become an obstacle. Rather, it becomes the boat to cross the ocean of transmigration, and your instrument of liberation. Therefore view it from this angle. Even the secular life can be made part of the spiritual. No part of your life is left out of the spiritual life. 100% of your life, 24 hours of the day, becomes spiritual if viewed in the right way and lived in the right manner. It becomes an integral part of a comprehensive movement towards God. That's the way Gurudev taught. Have no dichotomy. Make no separation. Feel that all your life is only meant for sadhana, for liberation. If thus, with all your heart, mind and soul, you long for it, let me assure you that liberation is 100% certain. No power on earth can prevent you from receiving what you deserve. For, by your very longing, you have earned it. 4.2 Respond to eternal call. The one great reality, the cosmic being, the source and origin of countless universes, ever remains the one, non-dual existence, the transcendental reality, present and hidden as the subtlest of the subtle, beyond the senses, and something that the mind and intellect cannot comprehend. That reality is the center of your being. That reality is your essential eternal identity. May that reality shine forth in your consciousness as the true I am beyond the little I that dominates our lives, that pushes us, pulls us, that twists and turns us and shoves us up and down. This little I, you are not. Words that were proclaimed by the illuminated and liberated sages and seers of the Vedic era must ever pervade your consciousness, dwell in your heart, direct your intellect and guide your entire life. Arise, awake, and attain illumination. The whole process of your being and doing, thinking and acting, should be this process of arising, being awake and alert and attaining illumination. Then alone we are living. That is life, a steady onward and upward ascent towards divine consciousness, reality awareness, self-experience, knowledge. There is nothing higher than that, greater than that. It is the culminating pinnacle achievement of all existence. Call it Brahma Jnana. Call it Christ consciousness. Call it Satori. Call it the Supreme Tao. Call it Nirvana. It is the one, supreme, non-dual experience that liberates you forever from your bondage to yourself. It liberates you forever from this dream of being bound to a non-existent conglomeration of names and forms, this universal appearance. The Queen Madalisa rocked the cradles of her infant princes and sang this lullaby. You are all pure, enlightened and immaculate. Give up this sleep of delusion that makes you give value to that which has no value. This is a great blunder. This is the darkness of the slumber of non-awareness. That is the call you have to respond to. That is the call of the Upanishads. Give up this deep sleep of delusion. You are the all-full. You ever shine as a center of radiant and dynamic divine consciousness within your apparent physical mental personality. Awaken to your divinity. Affirm your divinity. Assert your divinity. And make life an expression of your divinity. This is the one and the only teaching. This is the one and the only message. Awake. Answer this call. Make your life a dynamic expression of what you are by giving up the dream of thinking of yourself to be what you are not. That is the one great need if right here and now, in the midst of this veil of tears, you are to be rooted in the strength of your true nature. Reality never changes. You are what you are. Be what you are and make your life an expression of what you are, namely divinity. Then life becomes true life, authentic life. May responding to this call be your one great task. May this be your joyful duty. Blossom like a lotus in the midst of the mud of this samsara. Become rooted in reality and celebrate your life as a glorious victory and attainment. 4.3 Until the very last breath. To enter into the spiritual life is a rare blessedness. It is a great good. To take it seriously and engage in active spiritual sadhana is a second blessedness and a still greater good. But to persevere in the spiritual life, to be ever progressive and ceaseless in one's spiritual life, is the greatest good, the crowning blessedness. One makes up one's mind, come what may, until the very last breath persists in this body. I shall not swerve from the path of sadhana. Until the very last breath is in the body, I shall persevere. I shall dedicate myself to the divine life. I shall be a yogi. I shall ever be intent upon attaining the goal. I shall never slacken my efforts, much less cease my endeavor. Till the very last breath I shall be a sadhaka. Come what may, I shall be a yogi till the very last. Anything else may be uncertain, but this is certain. All else may be undecided, but this is decided once and for all. I am determined that the spiritual life will be my life. The spiritual goal will be my goal. And God will be the central fact in my life. I shall live my life for God and His attainment. Thus, if one gladly takes upon oneself this do-or-die attitude to life after serious deliberation and with firm conviction, that would indeed be the crowning glory of one's sadhana life. This is the greatest good. It is the supreme blessedness. And it is to such a sadhaka that success comes. Success is sure. Fulfillment awaits. Here there is no doubt or vagueness. The cosmic being gives itself to one who has totally given oneself to the cosmic being. To one who is prepared to live or die for that. This is for sure. One who has left everything and asks only for that gives itself fully to such a one. This is the truth. Therefore, rejoice greatly that this choice is before you. Rejoice greatly that this opportunity beckons you. Rejoice greatly that the dispensation of the divine is that to each seeking soul belongs that for which its life is offered and lived until the last. Those that give themselves unto me, to them I give myself. This is the declaration. This is the life. This is the time. This is the great opportunity. Let each day be lived with the awareness of this great good fortune, with the awareness of the supreme blessedness, of this golden opportunity. Then we shall have nothing to regret. Rather, we shall have all reason to rejoice. There is a concept in the West that is applicable to the field of heroics. Success and victory are to those who dare. A coward dies 1,000 times, a brave man but once. And that one death comes in triumph, in success and victory. It is the crowning glory, and it is assured for those who dare. More than in any other field of human endeavor, such daring and dedication, such defying of death itself are called for in the life spiritual. May the grace of God and Gurudev make you of that stuff. Coming into contact with the philosopher's stone, iron no longer remains as iron. It becomes pure gold. Not without meaning has the cosmic being brought you into living contact with the sublime, life-transforming, spiritual wisdom teachings of Swami Sivanandaji. Having thus come into contact, be heroes in this strife. Dare to live the spiritual life unto the last and crown yourself with the supreme blessedness of success, victory and a life triumphant. 4.4 The Vedic vision of life. Whether you know it or not, it is an unalterable fact that you live in the presence of God every moment of your life. The Vedic vision of man makes one fearless. It makes one recognize one's deathless immortal nature, one's imperishable divine nature beyond name and form, transcending time and space, without birth and death, supreme, unborn, eternal, imperishable, never changing. Established in this view, convinced of this truth, the true follower of the ancient Vedic way of life is fearless. Such a one laughs at death. He knows that death has no meaning for him. It may apply to this physical cage of flesh and bones in which he is imprisoned for a little while, but he is ever ready. But nevertheless, he is ever prepared to utilize life to the very fullest for the highest blessedness of himself and for the highest good of one and all. We are but passing pilgrims here. Therefore, let us do maximum benefit to God's creation in which we live and through which we pass. Thus, there is only this one great intention, one great objective, one great thought. Let me be a center of maximum benefit and blessedness to all beings around me. That is the true Vedic ideal of life, to live and be in this world, not for oneself, not for anything else, but for the highest good of all and also the supreme blessedness of oneself. The follower of the Vedic view accepts life as a great gift. He knows its value, and he tries to utilize it for the highest attainment and for the maximum good of one and all. Therefore, he combines a robust and most practical pragmatism with the highest transcendental idealism, absolutely fearless, aware of the great worth of this brief sojourn on earth. I know that everything is transitory. I know that all my connections are ephemeral. Nevertheless, while they are there, they are meaningful. I shall grasp life with both hands, and say yes to life with all joy in my heart. and I shall put every faculty that I have received from God to the highest and best use, having but one view: the happiness of all, the good of all, the service of God and man. Thus, there is at once a down-to-earth reality along with the highest supreme flights of transcendental idealism, a strange, unbelievable combination, but also a most wonderful and beautiful combination. With great compassion, recognizing the relative reality of this earth appearance, one plays the game of life with great expertise, ever the source of help and service, of peace and harmony. The Vedic vision grants us the supreme privilege of fearlessly moving through life, knowing that we are ever free, but at the same time, most beneficially moving through life with universal goodwill and ceaseless giving of oneself for the happiness of one and all. May you all live life endowed with this knowledge and vision, with this inner light and insight, and thus live to enrich God's creation, enrich the life of each and every one whom the Supreme Being brings you into contact with. Be a light in the darkness. May God's grace abide in you. 4.5 The greatest discovery of our Upanishadic seers. The Creator who shines amidst all created beings, who is nearer to them than anything else, who is more their own than any other single thing. The being is not known by them, being closest to us. We feel him not, present everywhere. We perceive him not. This non-perception has been given the metaphysical term Maya. Due to Maya, the ever-present is not recognized. The ever-proximate is regarded as being remote, to be reached only with difficulty. Thus we search for that being who is ever found. What exists is one without a second. One and one alone and non-dual is that great reality, eternally existing, ever-present, infinite. There is no second. There is one and one alone. Whatever exists, in his and that one without a second. The term Maya is only a term to describe an extraordinary, inexplicable state of that universal being, which being one and non-dual is everywhere present, yet is not recognized nor comprehended. It is nothing but a mysterious something emanating from Brahman himself. It is his effulgence that seemingly hides that radiant, effulgent reality. The relevance and importance of this great discovery of the Upanishadic seers is that it tells the seeking soul that there is no problem outside himself. There is no obstacle obstructing his path apart from himself. There is no dichotomy such as God and Satan. You are not to contend with anything outside yourself, because there is nothing outside working against your liberation. Whatever is within you. All problems emanate from within you. All solutions are to be sought and found and applied within you. Everything is there. Only perceive, open your eyes and perceive. This makes one fearless. You do not have to fear a devil, or some malevolent power that seems to be so powerful that one cannot escape. So, one is told, wake up from this dream. You are never bound. You are never imperfect. What a tremendous discovery this is. What a bold and brave assertion this is. How can there be anything but 100% pure divinity in that which I am? I am ever free. ever full, and ever pure. This is to be fully grasped and absorbed. This is why Gurudev said, "Come, come. Liberation and bliss are your birthright. Why do you prolong your bondage unnecessarily? Claim your birthright now, not in the distant future." Gurudev affirmed this wonderful fact that there is nothing that can prevent you from achieving that which is yours already. There is no power on earth, no power in the universe that can come in the way of your affirming your reality. It is yours. Only, you have to shake off lethargy, shake off negativity, shake off indifference and wake up, and be what you already are. Therefore, focus your mind on Brahman. Then Maya will disappear. The moment you take your mind away from Brahman, you are in Maya with all this delusion. All these miseries arise because we do not seek to know the ever-present reality by daily introspection. We are so busy with the world around us that we have no time for the world within. Almost all transformation, almost all commencement of a new life begins with self-searching and introspection. If this is not done, we will never get anywhere. All sadhana is ultimately putting an end to unnecessary negative thoughts, dismissing them as empty nothings. The ultimate call has been given as, arise, awake and obtain illumination. Do that now. Take refuge in the Supreme. Those who take refuge in me alone, they cross over this illusion. May the Supreme Reality shower grace and reveal itself, not in the distant future, but right now, here in this very moment. May you be granted success in this self-discovery. 4.6 Life is upheld by sacrifice. This entire life on earth is made possible by sacrifice. All life on earth is made by this process of self-giving, the offering of oneself for the benefit of the whole. The rain that may be falling outside is the direct result of the rain clouds giving of themselves. This sacrifice in the sky is received as water by the parched earth, which in turn gives of its very essence in the form of all the grain and fruits and vegetables that nourish and sustain all creatures on earth. This offering of the clouds is made possible by the self-offering of the ocean waters, which give of themselves in abundance, limitlessly, boundlessly. Thus is this earth upheld by sacrifice. Each part gives of itself for the benefit and the happiness of all, for the life and the living and the survival of all. And, if you offer yourself to the Lord who is more than all, He looks to it that He offers Himself for you, and then there is nothing that He will not do for your sake. He will not only liberate you from all that binds you here, but He will liberate you forever by the offering of Himself in the form of emancipation and divine perfection. This is the eternal promise. If you offer yourself up to me, then verily I offer myself up to you. Thus, life is pervaded by the spirit of sacrifice, which is the offering of oneself for the benefit of everything else. Life is upheld, life is benefited, life is made possible, and life is blessed by the spirit of sacrifice. One who realizes this truth that prevails in human life and who keeps up this chain of sacrifice is wise, benefiting everyone. That individual benefits oneself. becoming selfish and self-centered. Wanting the world to offer everything for one's benefit is a sad mistake that ultimately results in one's own stagnation. Because sacrifice is an ongoing process. It is a perpetual movement towards peace, joy and perfection. In reversing this process and wanting all creation to work for our benefit is a state of putting oneself in contradiction to the whole law of life, to the working of the will of God. When one does that, one invites for oneself misery, restlessness, and frustration. All these result from one's lack of understanding of this great glorious central fact of life, that our highest good lies not in wanting the universe to serve us, but in serving the universe. Therefore, our ancients taught us not to pray for our own good, but for others. May all be happy. May all be prosperous. May all have peace. This is an expression of the recognition of this great law of sacrifice. Lord Krishna taught that if you wish for your own happiness, work for the happiness of others. If you wish for peace, work for the peace of others. If you wish that God would do everything for you, then do everything for the love of Him. What you are, that the world is to you. Recognize this great truth, this great law that pervades this universe. Then by harmonizing yourself with this law, you are indeed on your way to the highest blessedness. By living and working in tune with the spirit of sacrifice, you bless yourself 100-fold. 4.7 Brahman in time and space. We are told that the supreme, ultimate divine reality baffles thought, reasoning and human language. It is transcendental, beyond space and time, unmanifest. How can we, bound up in a consciousness limited and confined by time and space factors, depending solely upon an inner instrument made up of mind and intellect, how can we ever hope, ever have the possibility of comprehending that great reality? He being imponderable, it would seem to be impossible. Nevertheless, those who have scaled the tremendous heights of the realization of the Absolute have discovered, when they have come down from the superconsciousness and transcendental experience, that another facet of this great reality exists. And this has been a discovery so great, so wonderful, that it would be the greatest thing to grasp it, live in that truth and base our sadhana upon that truth. It would make a revolutionary change in the quality of our spiritual life. And that second facet that they experienced and which overwhelmed them, they have shared with us. It is the truth that the Supreme, Almighty God, the Absolute Being, who is absolute, unfathomable and beyond mind and intellect, is at the same time manifest in the relative and finite dimension. Otherwise, there would be no possibility of our spiritual quest, our aspiration or our realization. All these would be impossible. What these great men of wisdom discovered was that this transcendental being, beyond time and space, when manifest in time and space, is you. Ponder this. Transcending time and space, it is that Brahman. When that same Brahman is manifest in time and space, that great Brahman is you. Therefore, be what you are. Live life as a manifestation of what you are, namely, divinity. Live such a life. Scatter divinity in everything that you do all the days of your life. And when the time comes, go laughing at the so-called termination of this earth incarnation. For it has no meaning for you. There is no termination. You are eternal, infinite. Be awake and aware of this great fact that God, manifest in space and time, is no other than you. Live as you are. Make your life a manifestation of this fact. Live your life filled with a radiant divine quality. Live with joy. Live with light. Spread this joy and light each minute, with each breath, everywhere, all the days of your life. 4.8 The heart of the spiritual problem. What is the heart of the spiritual problem of the individual soul upon this earth plane, who is in a state of bondage to a limited individual consciousness? It is important to try to understand or to get to the essence of this metaphysical problem of the soul imprisoned in a structure made of flesh and bones, caught in a net of constant, unceasing thoughts. These constitute an inner mesh in which we are caught and held firmly. For the identification with the psychophysical dimensions of our personality is so total that it has become normal. It has become the one and only consciousness that we know. It has become our natural condition. Although Vedantic psychology would describe it as abnormal, it is an aberration. Swami Vivekananda, trying to make his Western audience understand this subtle metaphysical point 100 years ago, used the term dehypnotize, when they suggested that Vedantic affirmations such as I am Atman, I am immortal, I am without name and form, were only a form of self-hypnosis. He replied, on the contrary, you have been hypnotized into thinking, I am the body, I am a human being, I am so and so, I belong to this family and country. What Vedanta wants to do is to hypnotize you from the hypnotized condition you have fallen into through birth after birth of wrong thinking. Thus it is that we have to go through a process of trying to discover what it is into which we have landed through ages of wrong thinking. Vedanta pinpoints this condition as a state of identification with that which we are not. A total moving away from the center of our real, natural awareness of what we are. Moving away, completely forgetting and becoming disconnected, as it were, from the awareness of what we really are. We have entered into a state of consciousness identifying ourselves and thinking ourselves to be something which we are not. We are immortal spirit, but we think we are people subject to birth and death, a beginning and an end. So, Vedanta precisely pinpoints our situation as this state of forgetfulness of our real nature and being totally caught up by identification with a personality consciousness that is not our real consciousness. Out of this wrong identification has arisen a false ego sense, and we are held in bondage to this wrong consciousness dominated by ego and totally pervaded by selfishness, which led to a self-centered life. This is the present malady, and this condition seems to be our natural condition, but in fact it is a diseased one. It is the disease of transmigration. The bondage of earth life is not outside you. It is not made up of anything other than your own self. It is not the outer world perceived by the five senses that constitutes samsara. It is this inner state of becoming completely deprived of our true awareness and becoming enslaved by a wrong consciousness dominated by a false ego. It is further complicated by selfishness that is the natural outcome of attachments to so many things. It is this wrong awareness of ourselves, this self-centered life that is the root cause of all clash and conflicts with others, disharmony, discord, suspicion and anger. Everything negative stems from this basic state which binds, not from any outside factors but from within. Therefore, the first process is to somehow clearly perceive this. Because as long as you do not clearly perceive this and honestly accept this state of yours, liberation is far, far away. It is only so much fancy a vapor of imagination. We must clearly perceive this state, and we must be honest enough to admit this very painful truth about the actual inner state of our consciousness. It is not flattering, but unless there is honesty about oneself we cannot step into spiritual life even if we know all about Vedanta. For the spiritual life has two dimensions. One is the Vedanta doctrine of the ultimate experience, but the other is worldly activity. Unless Vedanta is brought over into worldly activity, it is only a burden to us. Philosophy is useless unless it is brought down to the level of practice, and takes the form of sadhana in daily living in your everyday activity, thinking and feeling, reaction to things around you, and your relationship with others with whom you have to live. God himself has provided these so that the doctrine can be applied, so that one may begin to move towards truth experience. Unless we understand our position in samsara to be thus, unless we see it as a gymnasium in which we exercise and strengthen our inner spiritual muscles, we are the losers. We shall ever be in a wonderful field, yet we will not be able to take advantage of it, because we will be thinking that sadhana is somewhere in a forest or inside a cave. It is inside a cave, but that cave is inside us. We must see very clearly that it is here. It is in the way that we have to evolve. If we fail to recognize this opportunity and miss what God has given, then we are losers. Every moment, every day that dawns is a great chance and an opportunity given. The field is immediately reopened afresh for you to exercise practical Vedanta, for you to put philosophy into practice. This constitutes practical spiritual life. It is the practical aspect of yoga and Vedanta. 4.9 Understanding. Thou art that. When the Upanishads address you and declare, thou art that, you should be very clear in your mind what the term thou implies. Then alone, when this is grasped with clarity and subtle receptivity, can you truly and immediately understand what that connotes and how this relationship of oneness is possible. If you think that by the term thou the Upanishads mean you who are listening with your ears and trying to understand with your mind and grasp with your intellect, then the very purpose of the declaration is thwarted. If to you the term thou still seems to mean a physical entity, that means that you are still identifying yourself with the body, mind and intellect. As long as you are still in that state of understanding yourself, the Upanishads have failed in their mission, for they are not referring to this thou. When the Upanishads say thou, they are not using human language but are trying to convey a divine experience. They are neither using Sanskrit, English, Hindi nor any other language. They are declaring an experience that is imponderable, beyond the knowing of the mind or the grasping of the intelligence, whence all speech turns back with the mind, not reaching it. So, if instead of trying to understand the term thou upon that level where mind and speech cannot enter and they came back unable to comprehend it and you persist in taking it to mean a physical and psychological level, then the inner implication of thou has not yet dawned upon you. They are not saying that Mr. So-and-so is Brahman. That is an absurdity. Therefore, you first have to understand what this thou is that they are referring to when they declare that thou art that. They are not referring to the you that is seen, the you with name and form. They are referring to the unseen you. They are not referring to anything whatsoever that is seen. They are referring to thou as the hidden, unknown seer of all things seen, the knower of all things known. In that dimension, thou, the hidden seer of all things seen, art that which alone prevails. That verily is your source, your Alpha and Omega you, the unseen you, who may know the world, but the world can never know you. Even your father and mother cannot know you unless they themselves have already understood the true meaning of thou art that. There is a need for long study, the need of sitting at the feet of a knower of Brahman and listening to what he has to say about Brahman, about Maya, about yourself and about your relationships. You must listen, reflect and meditate. They say Rome was not built in a day. God is not understood even in one lifetime. What to speak of a day? Yet they say he can be realized within a twinkling of an eye. How can we reconcile these statements? If a dry match is struck against a rough surface it will immediately burst into flame. But you cannot do that with a toothpick or a cake of soap. Consider the amount of work and the number of steps that go into the manufacture of a match head. Thus, when the interior of a seeker is ready, fully prepared through years of study, listening to the truth and pondering over what has been studied, ultimately when the Upanishads declare to you that art that, you know perfectly well what is implied, what is meant by thou. I am the unchanging fourth state of consciousness, calmly witnessing the ever-recurring cycle of waking, dreaming and sleep. I am that I am. Awareness is my name. It is this meaning that the Upanishads are trying to address. They say that it is the subtlest of all subtle things. You must make your consciousness attain this subtlety. If it is still involved in dualities, in likes and dislikes, joy and grief, and identification with the body, how can that level be attained? One sage said that grasping this truth is like chewing on steel peanuts and digesting them. It is not a little thing. There is a need for humility, for clarity of thought, for clearly understanding what this truth is and where you stand. Then humbly, with patience, diligence and fortitude try to move towards it and keep on moving. Make your life this slow movement, never allowing anything to divert you. This is sadhana. This is spiritual life. This is yoga. This is abhyasa. Practice. This is meditation, dwelling on it, contemplating on it all 24 hours of the day. Meditation is throughout the day and night, even when you are working or serving or in a crowd. If the meditation stops, your sadhana has stopped, and your progress has stopped. You may be alone inside your meditation room, but in thought you may be in the middle of the world. Therefore, this is not play. It is not an ordinary thing. It requires humility and a clear understanding of your real identity. Then a positing of the question of thou is not ridiculous. Let us fully understand. Let us first assess our present state and see where we are. Then let us do all that is needful to reach where we ought to be if we want to understand reality, if we want to grasp the truth. 4.10 The realm of 10.000 awakenings. A couple of generations ago, there was a writer who was a frequent visitor to India who once came to visit the ashram. The title of one of his books was The Land of 10,000 Buddhas, a significant title. We know of only one Buddha, the unique historical awakened one who made his advent more than 2,500 years ago. He was born in a royal family, grew up in luxury, married a beautiful princess, and they had a baby boy. One could not imagine a more idyllic life. However, slowly, an awakening was brought into his heart and mind. He saw sights that set him thinking deeply about life and what it constitutes. His whole being was fired up with this light of awakening as he pondered deeply what he had seen and what he had been able to feel and understand. The turning point launched him into a vast realm of a quest of the unknown. From the lap of royal luxury he took to the forest in search of something that would take him beyond sorrow. The path should lead him to supreme blessedness where sorrow would cease to be. For he saw this world as a ball of fire, hot within and hot without. He saw that there is not an iota of happiness here. It is a place of envy, jealousy, ego, anger, frustration, hatred, and 100 other such states. Such psychological states torment the being who, in truth, is supremely above and beyond these states, untouched by any psychological condition. The never-changing reality that is the great stillness, the great peace. That being has moved away from that experience and become embroiled in things that go on in a much lower part of one's human personality. One moves away from one's center and gets enmeshed in the non-self. Sankaracharya described this process in his great and inspiring work, Vivekachudamani, by descending into a state of identification with the non-self, instead of ever abiding in one's own selfhood. The consciousness is made to come into a lower plane through an error, through lack of right inquiry, through lack of discrimination between the eternal and the non-eternal. By this root error, This original sin of identifying ourselves with the non-self and getting involved in this thing universe, one allows oneself to become subject to the afflictions arising out of this non-existent ego. The ego, which is nothing, seems to be everything because of the power given to it by our identification with it. We, due to our little thinking, made our human personality, which was given to us as an instrument for liberation, the means of our bondage by identifying with its lesser outer physical aspect and not taking the plunge inward as that royal prince, Siddhartha, did when he came to realize that all is vanity, ephemeral, fleeting and transient. He took a great step. He was assailed by many problems and temptations. But just as the magnetic needle of the mariner's compass always pointed to the north in calm and storm, so he ever fixed his mind upon the goal. Even so, if within our human personality you always dwell in the reality, then there is no bondage for you. You are in a state of liberation even though in apparent bondage. This process is a gradual one that has to be initiated and kept up. For the spiritual realm is a realm of 10,000 awakenings. Because the old thought patterns are so deeply rooted and because they constantly draw one back into the sleep of non-awareness, one must keep up the counter process in an unbroken continuity of ever-repeated awakenings, coming out and becoming aware of the dazzling sunshine of the ever-present reality. The truth that ever prevails is the one glorious fact of the universe. There is no bondage. Liberation is the only state that is real. It is eternally present everywhere within and without, in every atom, everywhere. Liberation alone is present. Illumination alone is present. That great state of perfect, restful divine consciousness alone is present. That is Brahman. That is the Tao. And that is infinite and everywhere present. Anything else might be cancelled, be declared to be unreal. But this is impossible of being conjured away by the finite mind. It is the one fact. It is the bedrock of existence. Awakening, awareness, perfection, bliss, joy, blessedness, is the one unalterable fact of existence. And into that, one has to keep on awakening. So, let us know that we are living in a realm of 10,000 awakenings. For that is what constitutes spirituality. That is what spirituality is in fact. That is what the spiritual life should be for one who would attain supreme blessedness here and now. Awakening is the truth. Awakening is what you are meant for. It is an ever-present experience and it is within and without. Fortunate are you who have been given the fullest scope for making this potential evident and for making it manifest as your own experience. 4.11 Abide in yourself, the innermost part of your being, the very essence, the fundamental, eternal principle of your being is identical with the supreme, cosmic, universal divine spirit. It is not in any way different. For the universal soul is the source, substratum and fulfillment, the very stuff of the individual soul. But something has been added onto it, so there is a duality. The added factors do not in any way change the divinity of the essential. innermost divine principle. It remains the same, unvarying. For it is reality, and reality does not change. Reality is ever the same. There is within you an unchanging reality, plus an ever-changing, temporary additive that limits your consciousness, makes you unable to feel your reality in all its glory and grandeur. These added factors that limit your real self are referred to as limiting adjuncts or upadhyas. They are the 5 organs of action, the 5 pranas, the 5 inner organs of perception, and the fourfold inner instrument of thought, feeling, memory and intellect. You must be able to clearly perceive this duality. In this lies the key to liberation and blessedness. In this lies the solution to all the problems that you may be experiencing. 4. Practically everything that goes to harass, vex and trouble you is in the part of your being made up of these limiting adjuncts. In your real self, the inner part of your duality, there is no problem, no trouble of any kind. That innermost part is a center of blessedness, joy, peace and serenity. There you find the cessation of all vexation and all that makes you suffer. They do not exist in the real you. They are only the play, the various moods and modes of this outer half. If you can think deeply about it, and perceive the truth that everything that makes the human being miserable upon this earth plane pertains to the earthly half of this duality only, while the solution to all this lies in the inner half, the eternal, spiritual, divine half of this duality, you will suddenly realize with a shock that within the problem lies the solution. You will suddenly exult in the realization. For all the harassments I seem to be undergoing, I am the solution. I am the solution. If I practice the sadhana of being myself, of abiding in my reality, then I am applying the solution and solving all problems. This one sadhana of being myself will within a moment liberate me from everything that constitutes this samsara, joy and sorrow, pleasure and pain, and all desires and restlessness pertain to the mind, intellect and emotions to the non-self. They cannot touch you who constitute the positive, glorious half of this duality. Even while in this state of associating yourself with these limiting adjuncts, you are still liberated in your innermost real identity. It has no bondage. You have no bondage. You are an ever liberated being. Bliss is your eternal, unchangeable natural state. Peace profound is what you are at all times, whether waking, dreaming or sleeping. You constitute the solution to all these temporary, evanescent little vexations that go to make up this world. You may not be able to change the world, but you can always be yourself. It is the simplest of things. It is as simple as it is for a rainbow to be colorful, for honey to be sweet or for music to be melodious, for it is your inherent nature. Therefore, ponder this fact, that while you may not be able to change the world outside, it does not matter, because you can be your own self. Be what you are and see what it does to you. This is the greatest sadhana. This is true religion. This is yoga and Vedanta. And this is wisdom. To search for solutions when the solution is right there within you does not make any sense. Be your own self, and it is instant bliss, instant peace, instant fullness. For then you abide in eternity and in infinity. May Gurudev's hand of benediction help you to perform this inner miracle, the greatest of miracles. 4.12 It is what you are and do that counts. It is what you are that counts in the eyes of God. It is what you do that bears fruit, not what you know. You are possibly familiar with the story of Narada, who did not have peace of mind even though he knew everything that was to be known. He took his problem to Sanat Kumara. I have learned everything that is to be learned. I have vast knowledge, but nevertheless, I am suffering. I have no rest or inner peace. Sanat Kumara replied, "What have you studied? What have you learned? What knowledge have you acquired?" Narada's reply was a narration of all the sacred books that then existed. Then Narada was told, "Your studies are admirable, your knowledge is praiseworthy, but the supreme is attained by living the life indicated by the scriptures. The Atman cannot be learned through discourses, or by listening to a great deal of expositions. Therefore, if we really want highest blessedness, if we really want that supreme, indescribable experience that at once grants you peace, joy and bliss, then may we live the life as the great ones have lived and taught us. Walk the footsteps of the great ones, live even as they have lived, and you will attain the same state of blessedness and divine perfection, and liberation." Thus we have been told. Sometimes the thought comes, what is the use of much discourse and much talk? Dakshinamurti taught in silence. The great Master Jesus did not address large audiences. All his recorded words will fit into a booklet. Lord Buddha lived longer and many words were written about his life and movements. But his actual teachings will only fill a small volume. But then, their teachings were stored in human hearts and they have been revived afresh, filled with new power as time goes on. For their teachings were practices. New life has been continuously put into their teachings, infused into them, by those who knew that it is what we are and what we do that yields results. It is those who did take the step of making themselves personifications of these great teachings, practicing them in all their fullness in their own active, day-to-day life, who have made their words a living reality for us even today. Reflect well. The Upanishads are very slim volumes, some with 18 verses, some with 24, but they comprise the quintessence of the ancient, ageless wisdom that has been our heritage. When we consider these realities, one begins to rightly feel that to say much is superfluous, and to do even a little is the essence of the spiritual life. Being and doing, therefore, count in the spiritual life over and above all things known. Erudition is admirable. A great deal of learning and knowledge is not bad. But certainly one must see that it is not enough. May this perception, this understanding drive us onward to greater action, to practical spiritual life, to the active living of the teachings of the great masters. This is the one thing needful. May the grace of the divine enable us to attain supreme blessedness through a practical spiritual life through divine life in daily practice. 4.13 Are you becoming a better person? Spiritual perfection follows ethical perfection. Where there is dharma, righteousness, there is adhyatma, spirituality. And where there is adhyatma there is bound to be true dharma. If there is adhyatma, but true dharma is lacking, then the adhyatma is imperfect and incomplete. These truths must be very clearly understood and grasped. They should be made the basis of our spiritual life. Dharma is the foundation. Sadhana is the structure. Adhyatma is the completion. Even if the structure is complete but no roof has been put on it, no one can live in it. Adhyatma then is that which completes. But both the structure of sadhana as well as the completing roof of adhyatma can only be raised upon the foundation of dharma. No one is perfect in this created phenomenal world, but all have the potential for perfection. Life is a means for rising beyond imperfection into a state of perfection. That is why life has been given. Sadhana is the scientific system for attaining that perfection. An unripe fruit in a garden is imperfect. It is neither sweet nor satisfying. One cannot enjoy because it is imperfect. An unripe fruit has to utilize all of nature around it in order to gradually rise above its state of imperfection and become a juicy, ripe fruit that gives joy to all. So, the whole process is a gradual transformation from imperfection to perfection. From incompleteness to completeness. From a defective human nature into a beautiful, all-perfect and divine nature. The potential for this transformation is within each human individual. God dwells in all beings, but all beings cannot become aware of his indwelling divinity. It is only given to man who can think, reason and expand his understanding of himself. To this unique being alone is open the ability to recognize his mission and engage in purposeful endeavor to become perfect. One of the unfailing touchstones of a truly spiritual life is, what is my sadhana doing to me quite apart from its connection with God or our eternal reality? Spiritual life has also to be tested upon the basis of your relationship to God's creation. As you proceed in your spiritual life, are you becoming more and more compassionate towards God's creatures? Are you becoming a more truthful person in your dealings? Are you becoming more a person of sublime and pure thoughts and actions? Is this taking place? Is the unripeness of an imperfect human nature gradually giving place to maturity, to ripeness of spiritual nature? Is it ultimately moving towards perfection in a divine manner? Day by day one should test oneself. What is my sadhana doing to me? What process is taking place within me, within my mind, heart and in my approach to life? This is the touchstone. Are you becoming a better neighbor to your neighbor? Are you becoming a better disciple to your guru? A better seeker to other fellow seekers? Are you becoming a positive, creative factor of inspiration and adoration in your contemporary human society? It is very important that you keep a tab on what is happening to you. because they say that sadhana is a sort of alchemy where base metal is turned to gold. That alchemy must take place within your personality. Any authentic sadhana must inevitably bring about this inner transformation. In spiritual life, this inner process of becoming transformed must invariably follow all sadhana that is rightly engaged in, that is correctly oriented, that is being done with an in-depth understanding of what it is supposed to do to one's life and personality. This here and now inner transformation is as equally important as the ultimate goal of God realization. I want to say that it is even more important. If it is not taking place, you will have to wait long, because there is something blocking the needed inner transformation. Sadhana makes a person a good person, a truthful, tolerant, compassionate person. Sadhana creates a person of noble character, pure conduct and holy life. Thus it becomes the gradual process of the ascent of the spirit towards God consciousness. Imperfection is not to be kept forever. Though we may be born imperfect, it is not to be tolerated or maintained. That is the meaning of life, the value of life. 4.14 With what you have, make the highest and best use. There is an expression in the West, make do. It means that whatever we have, good or bad, we must make the best use of that. You must make do with what you have and not lament over what you do not have or imagine that one day you will have. Instead, you look at the hard facts and make the best of what you have. You don't go on waiting for some fanciful future when everything is perfect. This is one of the defects of the mind, always looking for a time when everything will be ideal. There is also a significant saying, to one who already has, God will give even more to overflowing. Its significance is that if you will make do with what God has given you, then automatically the supreme wholeness starts giving you more and more. Because having done the best that you can with what you already have, you have created conditions for being given more and for receiving more. Some mysterious cosmic law seems to start working and providing you with more and more, because you have deserved it by putting what you have to the very best use. You have not been neglectful. You have not treated with scant respect what you have already been endowed with, which means that you have recognized the worth of what the cosmic being has already given you. This is no small thing. Taking whatever we have, taking everything together, we apprise our present situation, our present endowments, abilities and faculties, and say, yes, this is what I am at this point in time. So let me put it to the highest and best use with all possible sincerity and enthusiasm. If this is done, what can you not achieve? Right at the very beginning, you will start progressing, moving forward. You will not just look forward to something, but start moving forward. This is the great thing that is needful. This is the working of grace. So, in the light of this truth, how do we look at what we have? It is not to be disdained, but looked at in totality. Yes, this is what I have. God has endowed me with this thing called life with all its pluses and minuses. I have it, So let me sit up and see in what way I can make the very best use of myself, and in what way I can make the very best use of life. This means that you start looking at things in a totally different way. Everything that I am and everything that life holds for me have some value in this approach I have now decided to take. So, let me no longer analyze and divide life into things that are helpful and not helpful, that are sadhana and not sadhana. No. I will take 100% of my life and see in what way I can turn each percent to my advantage. How I can look at it in a different way and see in all of it a means of attaining the goal. I will not categorize things, nor try to fight or reject anything. I will take life as a whole and see everything in it as a possible plus factor kept there by God in His all-intelligence to help me, even when I commit some blunder and have to pay for it. I will make use of it, for I know now what should and should not be done. If that is so, the blunder has given you a valuable insight into life and equipped you with new knowledge. It has alerted you to something that perhaps until that time you had not been aware of, and it is a positive factor helping your spiritual life. What is more, you should recognize that you are something more than this life you are leading. You are something apart from this me that seems to be all you have. When you know that you are something apart from this me, you don't get caught up in the me and say I. You know that this is also an endowment, and you begin to think in what way I can make use of this me and this life of mine. Both of these are factors that the real you, the eternal you, can make use of. Here we come ultimately to the great saying, you are what your mind is. If you take this mental attitude, this new vision, you say no to nothing, and all things stand before you with a new meaning. Everything is a plus factor, and you have to deal with things in a way in which they become assets, not liabilities. Herein comes the necessity of your thinking being backed up by the wisdom of reasoning. By a little reflection, you can go on making minus into plus and not even think of it as minus. At the moment I don't see the plus point, but let me see where I can identify the plus point in this seemingly minus situation. Thus should be the wise, discriminating seeker's approach to life. May God's grace and the blessings and benedictions of Gurudev give you the key to this, guide your footsteps and enlighten your mind at every step. 4.15 A faith that sustains. You are the most fortunate human individuals on earth, in that in this present incarnation you have been brought into the spiritual life. You have been drawn towards the eternal, and you have been endowed with aspiration, inquiry, dispassion and discrimination between the real and the unreal. You are most fortunate in that you have been provided with all facilities for your evolution, but also the inconveniences and obstacles. Due to them you evolve spiritually, round off your angularities, and arouse into wakefulness your inner resources. These obstacles allow you to gain inner resources, endurance and innate wisdom. Great has been the grace, greater still have been the blessings, and greatest of all has been your determination to stick it out in spite of all apparent obstructions. One might say, This is all part of God's divine plan for me. I accept it in toto and deal with it with understanding, patience and perseverance. I have total trust in the divine. When he has called me into this life, he will never abandon me. There is a meaning behind everything that he is now making me undergo. The divine never abandons. Believing in him, no one is lost. I shall persist until I reap the golden harvest. Such indeed is the stuff of those who achieve, those whose lofty examples fill the Upanishads. Therefore, I ask each one of you to persist, persevere and forge ahead. Think only of the divine. Set your mind, heart and your entire being upon that one and only reality of which you are an inseparable part, with which you are essentially one. Have your being fixed upon the glorious destiny that is yours as a birthright, which is beyond time and space, name and form, and beyond this petty and deceptive human identity. The human identity is the greatest of all obstacles. It is the last to be overcome, and truth to tell, the one and only obstacle. All other obstacles are offshoots of this one great obstacle, the I. Then shall I be free, when I shall cease to be. I am samsara. I am Maya. I am my own bondage. But in truth, I am ever free. I am never bound. I have neither birth nor death. But this falsight stands in the way of realizing the me that I am in reality. May the divine continue to shower grace upon you, as it has been showering upon you since birth. Unknown to you, the divine has been shaping you gradually for this noble, sublime life through various means from infancy up to adulthood. He has been putting opportunities in your way, bringing obstacles, giving bitter experiences so that you may realize what life is, and bringing noble experiences so that you are confirmed in your faith in the goodness of God. As a mother does for a helpless infant, he has brought you all that is needful, preparing you for the path that leads to the eternal reality. If you look back, you will understand many events that you did not understand at the time. God does more miracles through painful and unpleasant experiences than he does through sunshine and picnics. When we understand, we are filled with gratitude, and we wonder why we did not understand. Therefore, we are filled with a deep emotion of humble acknowledgement of his perennial grace and blessings in our life. I tell all of you that the divine has lifted you up from unrealities into the reality. I assure you that he has lifted you up from darkness into light. This is thrice true. He has lifted us up from spiritual death into that flowing stream, that great upward movement to immortality. Rejoice, be humble, be grateful, and do not stop till the goal is reached. Do not move in any other direction. Do not lose any opportunity. Live in the awareness that God is here and now. He abides within you, and you ever abide in him. His is the only truth. All others are fancies and fantasies. Glory be to each and every one of you. Glory be to God who has thus graced you. Divine Life Society Spiritual Life, a Perspective. Chapter 5. 5. Success in Life. A Young Person's Guide by Swami Chidananda. Please try to understand the correct implication of the term successful life. When you talk of success with reference to life, it does not merely mean succeeding in everything that you undertake or do. It does not merely mean succeeding in fulfilling all wants or getting whatever you desire. It does not just mean acquiring a name or attaining a position or imitating fashionable ways and appearing modern or up to date. The essence of true success is what you make of yourself. It is the conduct of life that you develop. It is the character that you cultivate. And it is the type of person you become. This is the central meaning of successful living. Such successful life is one that succeeds in producing an ideal individual. Your success is not measured in terms of what all you obtain but in terms of what you become, how you live, and what actions you do. Upon this point reflect well and attain great happiness. Are you committed to something very definite, very clear, very unmistakable? Ask yourself this question. Keep on asking until you are clear, until you are absolutely certain about your answer to this question. For according to your commitment, that will be your life. God's plan for you is the ultimate experience of the divine perfection, which is your innermost reality, which is your true self. Let life become this process of fulfilling God's plan for you. You will bless your own immediate environment, your nation and the entire world. A letter from Swami Chidanandaji. My dear child, remember, you are a divine child of God no matter what age or stage you are in. Therefore, at all times be divine in your thoughts, words, and actions. Be strong. Be fearless in truth. Have firm courage to be yourself. Do not be weak and wish to imitate others, but be spiritual, strong and bold, and do not be afraid to differ from the crowd if you think that is that right thing to do. To flow with the stream is easy, but to swim against the currents needs guts. That's what being divine means. Namely, having the guts to remain what you are without being dragged into being what every A, B, Z is nowadays. Independent and original. That's what the Swami wants to find in you at all times, in all conditions, under all circumstances, in all crowds, head and shoulders high above the rest. But with no snobbery or superiority. Just simply, with humility, but with strength. You will get respect. You help others that way because you will show a new way. A new out of the mess which teenagers are in since the past 25 years. God bless you and may you shine as a light. Be an excellent student. Be an understanding son or daughter, an ideal human individual. Be also a true lover of all that is good, virtuous and beautiful. Live simply but think nobly. Feel divinity and act ideally. Be perfect in small things and little acts day by day. Try to make each single day full of truth, selflessness, nobility, and purity. Life will be grand and glorious then because your life is made up single days one after another. Take thought of your day. 5.1 The 4 stages of life. In our grand Indian culture they conceived of life in 4 stages. The preliminary stage. the development stage, the flowering or blossoming stage, and the culminating, fruitful stage. The satisfactory growth of the latter three stages truly depends upon the management of the first stage, the student stage. The supreme value of the student period is incalculable. Student life is the most precious life. The way in which you utilize this period will decide the nature of the coming years that lie ahead of you. Your happiness, your success, your honor and your good name all depend upon the way in which you live now. In this present period, my dear student, you are preparing your future. Remember this. I wish you to be great. The world has put its faith in you. Your elders keep their hope upon you. Now is the time for you to wisely mold your life, your character, your physical health, your entire nature in any way in which you make up your mind to do so. And you must do this now. It is like the laying of the foundation for an important building you wish to construct. If this building is something very important to you, then just think how much more important its proper foundation becomes in your view. The strong and continued existence of the building depends certainly upon the foundation. This is the stage you are now in. Let your preparations be wise, correct, and of such a kind that will lead to your true welfare, supreme good, and lasting happiness. You should acquire knowledge of subjects not only like history, geography, mathematics, etc., but also about human nature, the science of self-control, the art of developing a pure mind, the duties of men and women, and the proper relationship between you, the world and God. Thus, the first 25 years of human life should be dedicated to acquiring good health, perfect character, self-control, and all that is necessary for you to know in order to live life righteously, to be financially independent via some trade or profession, and to thus attain lasting satisfaction and happiness. I shall mention briefly about the second, third and fourth stages and then take up the important question of how you can manage your present stage in a most beneficial way. The second stage, married life. Having already created a firm and ideal foundation, the student enters into the second stage of life, the householder's life. One is not merely entering into a physical partnership with another physical creature, is not entering into a social relationship with another family, but is entering into a spiritual partnership with another soul in order to fulfill a mutually shared divine destiny. So that the relationship between husband and wife is essentially a spiritual partnership between two souls. Your spouse is to you everything: companion, friend, consoler, helper and partner in this great spiritual adventure. Such is the ideal and total concept of this relationship. With such an understanding, the home becomes not only a place for living the normal worldly existence, but a place of worship and devotion. Daily worship, helping those in need, and honoring the guest, especially the chance visitor who happens to be at your door at the time of food, become primary duties of householders. Another aspect of the householder's duty is to evolve between themselves reciprocally a certain ideal behavior of mutual love, honoring each other's individual freedom. Such an atmosphere becomes the ideal ground for nurturing the new generation. They find that between their parents exists a beautiful relationship of harmony, love, mutual respect and tolerance, which creates an ideal atmosphere for their growth. Through their personal relationship, the parents place before the children an exemplary way of conducting themselves, which becomes the first educational process of the child. Home is, therefore, the nursery of the nation, nursery of the world. Providing an ideal setting and an ideal atmosphere for the generation of tomorrow is an important duty of the married couple. Third stage, retirement. Having fulfilled the duties of raising children, making them adults capable of standing on their own feet, a new stage of life comes into being. Up till now you were entirely preoccupied with your family and your profession, providing for your parents, wife, children and other dependents. To a certain extent, it was a self-centered life, although one practiced selflessness for the sake of the children and family. But now one must give way to the new generation. Having retired, with a little more leisure on your hands, and with a vast reservoir of professional experience and expertise, one has the time to become a true selfless servant of the society, to become altruists and philanthropists. This is also the time for husband and wife, together, to enter more into the inner life. Study, meditation, prayer, pilgrimage. We must realize that a time comes when we have to say goodbye. We have to prepare for that last journey. The fourth stage, renunciation. At this time of life, the only duty is to gather together one's mind and place it upon the Supreme Being. That is the fourth quarter of life, the sunset period of one's life, when all your relationships and connections are now coming to a close. At this time, your entire mind should be fixed upon the eternal, no more on the passing world. You have fulfilled all your duties, and now you have to depart. The river is reaching the ocean, and a time will come when it has to merge into the ocean. Here one's mind has become calm, steady and pure. One's heart is desireless and free from all cravings. One is established in perfect self-restraint and virtue. This ideal state is the fruit of right living. Here, one automatically becomes absorbed in the contemplation of the Supreme and moves toward God experience. He or she reaps the harvest of a rich inner spiritual life, supreme peace and bliss, obtaining that ultimate objective for which one has taken birth. That is the goal to be reached. But now you are just beginning. What must you do? How must you live? How should you manage a student life satisfactorily? There are 12 keys to successfully managing a student's life. 5.2 Keys to Happiness and Success. 1. Develop a clear-cut aim. First, you must form a correct conception of how you wish to develop and perfect yourself. You must cultivate a clear-cut idea of what you want to become. This will give you a definite and clear-cut aim in life. Without such an aim, your life cannot move forward powerfully and progressively. You will be pulled in different directions and your mind will be distracted and much energy will be wasted. You can avoid all of these if you have a well-defined aim or a set of a few definite objectives. Then there is no confusion in your way. You know what you wish to attain and in which direction to proceed. Therefore, you also understand what is right and what is wrong, what is desirable and what is undesirable, what is to be accepted and what is to be rejected in moving towards your aim of life. Such definiteness gives you great inner strength. It develops willpower. It makes you a positive personality. There will be no more negative trends in your life too. Draw up a wise program. The second important thing is to draw for yourself a wise program of life to help you to develop along the desired lines and to gradually attain the aim of life. Such a program will provide a plan of action in meeting with all problems that face the young student, the growing youth, to deal with all situations that arise in your life, to meet and overcome temptations with firm mind and to surmount obstacles with boldness and self-confidence. The power to do this exists within you already in its latent state. It has to be unfolded and activated. A proper understanding of your own mind, its behavior and habits, and the law that governs the inner activity of the mind become very, very helpful in living this wonderful and interesting period of your life. 3. Guard your health. Now we come to the factors upon which depends the proper working out of your program of life. Health is the key factor. Without health you can do nothing. Without health you can succeed neither in studies, nor in character building, nor in sports and social activities, nor in home life. Health is a matter of careful living. It is got not only from things you eat and drink, but it is also obtained from your wise and careful avoiding of such things that are not good for your health. Eat for your health. Eat for your strength and not for your taste. Eat to live and to serve. Do not live to eat. Eat simple food. Go to bed early and get up early. Acquire healthy habits. Do regular exercise daily. Be moderate in eating and drinking. Chew your food thoroughly. Do not overeat. Do not eat without hunger. Avoid things that do not agree with you. 4. Conserve your energy. Then you must conserve your energy. Never waste your energy in useless pursuits. Too much talking and gossiping, aimless wandering, habit of worrying, losing your temper frequently, all these drain away your energy. Give up all habits that are likely to have an adverse effect on health. Smoking and illegal drugs are a curse upon students. Be established in perfect brahmacharya, purity. Abstain from sexual activity. Preserve health. Conserve energy. Develop physical and mental strength and thus lay the foundation of a successful life. 5. Value character. Value character more than anything else on the earth. Be perfectly truthful. Do not let your speech be vulgar or rude. Speech must be clean, polite, and joy-giving. Cast away egoism, pride and selfishness. These three form the blemish upon human character. They arise out of ignorance and greed. Ignorance makes you proud and egoistic. Greed makes you selfish. They lead to dishonor and unhappiness and failure in life. By leading a simple life and having a cheerful disposition under all circumstances, you can overcome selfishness and egoism. Your life and conduct must be the cause of happiness in other people. 6. Adopt virtues. Adopt certain virtues and principles and stick to them in all your activities of life. Never leave these principles. Never move away from virtue. These principles will be your true friends and helpers. They will assure your progress and ultimately grant you supreme happiness and success. Periodically make certain simple resolutions to practice those virtues. Maintain a personal diary wherein you make a careful note of your day-to-day conduct, speech, and behavior. This will reveal to you how far you are advancing and show you your mistakes and where you must correct yourself. Such a diary will be your friend. It will reveal your weakness and teach you humility. 7. Pray to God. Pray to God and ask Him for inner strength and guidance. God's divine name has immense power. Repeat His name always and remember Him under all situations. Remember God constantly with love in your heart. Have absolute faith in your inseparable relationship with Him. Cultivate constant remembrance of God by seeing His invisible presence in and through all things in this universe around you. God is not some remote reality far away from you, but God is here and now. He is all-pervading reality, the ever-present divine spirit pervading this entire universe, and also He is your innermost self. He is closer to you than your very breath. Never forget this. Even when you are engaged in your daily activity, begin to feel the presence of God. 8. Reflect upon ideal personalities. Reflect upon the lives of ideal personalities. Draw strength and inspiration from their lives and teachings. Try to mold your life upon their pattern. Always have a great ideal before your mind. Think of it at all times: morning, noon, evening, and night. Develop it into the constant background of your thought. Then your mind will never be idle or vacant. This is important because right thinking is the key to noble living. 9. Be kind. Out of your life there must flow out ceaseless love, kindness, and compassion. Never hurt anyone. Never hurt even the least one of God's creatures, either by thought, word, or action. Even in dreams you should never think of harming or hurting any creature. This sublime principle of non-injury, harmlessness, is given a very great place in the eternal Vedic way of life. Be a center of help. Be a center of benefit. Be a center of happiness and peace to all. Never injure. Never hurt. Never harm any living creature. 10. Be absolutely truthful. You must be rooted in absolute truthfulness, even at the cost of your life. Never utter falsehood. Never be dishonest in any of your dealings with anyone in this world. Be a person of integrity, of verity. Become established in truthfulness in thought, word, Indeed, truth is God. One who practices truthfulness rigidly will attain God. God is present in this human world as the sublime principle of truthfulness. 11. Serve others. The vexing problems of this modern world, its clashes and conflicts, its greed and exploitation, its hatred and hostilities, its mad craze for selfish acquisition will never cease or be relieved until and unless there is a change of outlook in man towards his neighbors and towards his life around him. Man makes life what it is, and life around man is but a reflection of what he is. The only rational and lasting solution to the afflictions that beset the organized society of civilized men is a reinstating of the spirit of selfless giving into its rightful place in your life. The more you give of yourself, the greater will be your conquest over sorrows and sufferings and your ascent into peace and bliss. 12. Think nobly. As you think, so you will become. Just as you reap what you sow, in the same way, you will ultimately experience and attain what you constantly think and feel. Your inner thoughts led to outer action. Repeated actions grow into habits. Such habits become permanent qualities in your very nature. This nature goes to form your character. Your future and your destiny is the direct result of your character. Understand this very well. Carefully bear this in your mind. Think and act with this knowledge. Your inner thoughts are the seeds of your ultimate destiny. Safeguard your thoughts and feelings. Think nobly and virtuously. You will become a noble man or woman. You will attain greatness and make your life fruitful. More than all the books that you read and study, more than all your lessons and examinations. More important than everything in life is the cultivation of virtue. This is the source of ultimate happiness. Become good and great. 5.3 How to choose a profession. In deciding upon a profession, you must now take a new look at the professions and reconsider what professional activity really implies. It constitutes your service and your contribution to the welfare and progress of the entire society in which you are living. Professional life is self-giving, is giving of oneself for the service of and benefit and happiness of all beings. Its income-bringing aspect is secondary and not primary. This must be clearly understood. It must be subordinated to the basic ideals of self-giving and service. Otherwise man is not a man. He is but a beast in human form, a wolf in sheep's clothing. As long as you have a body, you have to work hard for your livelihood. You have to struggle hard to provide yourself with the necessities of physical existence: food, clothing, shelter, medical aid. But your efforts to earn your livelihood should not be immoral, unethical or unrighteous. Right conduct should be the basis of your professional or business activities. Ply a trade, do a business, be a farmer, be a doctor. It will not come in the way of your attaining supreme success in life provided you ever adhere to right conduct. Similarly, your social life should not become mere frivolity, dissipation, extravagant entertainment and a waste of time, energy and money in meaningless status keeping. Social life has to be constructive, creative, ennobled by fellow feeling, compassion and the spirit of sharing. It must be gainful in terms of increased happiness, welfare and benefit to all beings amidst whom Providence has placed you. Be helpful to your brothers and sisters. Desire to serve your own neighbor. Desire to serve the society, nation, all creatures, even plants and insects. Desire to be serviceful to all. And do not forget that great being who gives us life itself, our Mother Earth. Without pure water and clear air, thick forests and fertile pastures, life on Earth cannot continue in a healthy manner. Already so many species have become extinct due to greed and selfishness. This will be our fate also unless great effort is put forth to turn the tides. Let your time be spent in these worthwhile pursuits. 5.4 Strength by Rabindranath Tagore. This is my prayer to thee, my Lord. Strike at the root of penury in my heart. Give me the strength lightly to bear my joys and sorrows. Give me the strength to make my love fruitful in service. Give the strength to raise my mind high above daily trifles. And give the strength to surrender my strength to thy will with love. 5.5 Law of Prosperity. The secret of prosperity, of course, would be to live within your income, to spend less than what you earn, and not go into debt. That would be the greatest wisdom in a nutshell. If you have not got the cash, then don't purchase items, go without them. Yet, there are certain laws of prosperity which stem from eternal spiritual truths. If you begin to feel and think lack, want, you experience lack. If you assert your abundance, then, as the shadow follows the person, abundance follows you. Desire is poverty. Desire is a feeling of inadequacy. When you begin to desire, you are a beggar already. A millionaire who is always wanting to make another million is really a beggar. A porter who is getting, say, $4 a day and says, "That is quite enough for me," is greater than a millionaire. For he has not that nagging feeling of lack and the beggarly attitude of desire. To this end, contentment is the true secret of affirming your abundance. Whatever comes, feel full. Once you have contentment, there is nothing that can make you unhappy. If you don't have contentment, nothing can make you happy. The moment desire arises, just reject it. Then you will begin to experience that the desired object comes by itself to you. This is an eternal law. So, the inner secret of prosperity is to affirm your plenitude, your abundance. The moment you start affirming it, you will find conditions changing. For your conditions are the product of your own thoughts. The vital factor that goes to make up all your life is your thoughts. They are as tangible and substantial as bricks that piles up to become a great mansion. They can build your whole life. They can create any condition in your life. Therefore, the secret of prosperity is to affirm your true abundant nature. After all, you are the master of the whole creation. For you are heir to the one who is master of everything. In truth, you lack nothing. All plenitude, all abundance is our real self. Your true nature is plenitude. The more you begin to affirm this fact with perfect confidence, not as a thing to be, but as a fact that is, prosperity is yours. This is a law which has been proved in the life of all those who have discovered and applied it. The more you desire, the more does your want increase. The more you assert your abundance, the more abundance follows you. Let this theorem be in your mind. Let it be in your heart. 5.6 Don't Quit by unknown author. This is a favorite poem of Swamiji. When things go wrong, as they sometimes will, when the road you're trudging seems all uphill, when the funds are low and the debts are high and you want to smile, but you have to sigh, when care is pressing you down a bit, rest, if you must, but don't you quite. Life is queer with its twists and turns, as every one of us sometimes learns, and many a failure turns about when the might have won had he stuck it out. Don't give up through he pace seems slow, you may succeed with another blow. Success is failure turned inside out, the silver tint of the clouds of doubt, and you never can tell how close you are. It may be never when it seems so far, so stick to the fight when you're hardest hit. It's when things seem worst that you must not quit. 5.7 Purity of conduct. The one great problem of modern society is the sexual behavior of the people. This is going from bad to worse over the past several decades. The minds of people are filled with sexual thoughts. The whole world is under a tremendous sexual intoxication. It is all fashion, restaurants, hotels, dinners, dances, cinema and rock and roll. Their life ends in eating, drinking and sleeping. That is all. Those who have had some contact with Western society know what aberrations are going on in this field. We know of divorces without limit, a thing which society looked upon with great outrage in the Victorian era. People then were scandalized if a man left his wife and went off with another woman, or if a woman left her husband for another man. It was a shame. Now, it is the order of the day. Not only the adults but especially the children suffer living amid such instability. Know for certain that following the current trend of behavior results in a definite drain upon the vitality. It retards normal mental and physical progress. This is why so many of today's youth who follow modern ways suffer from anemia, bad memory, and debility. They cannot master the difficult subjects of science, medicine and engineering that provide well-paying jobs. If you wish to succeed in life, you must conserve your energy, because, if energy is sufficiently conserved, you can put it to any use that you want. You can attain anything that you wish to attain. But if you are bankrupt in energy, all attainment becomes difficult. It becomes a long drawn-out struggle. Energy is frittered away in a dozen different directions. Too much talking, too much worry, too much wanting, fits of temper, anger, fighting, quarreling, arguing, overeating, negative thoughts of hatred, envy and jealousy, all health killing habits like smoking, drugs, and drinking. All these things drain away your energy. and the greatest drain is from all these activities associated with sexual pursuits. The senses and mind should be controlled so that your energy is not wasted. The sex energy is the most concentrated of human biological energies. It is the quintessence of energies. It is the quintessence of all that we eat and assimilate. In the same way that honey is the very quintessence of flowers. Hundreds of bees bringing nectar from thousands of flowers, by some miracle of biochemistry, produce honey. In the same way, the sex energy is the most rarefied and perfectly pure form of human physical energy. If that sex energy is wisely conserved, it becomes available for higher intellectual pursuits, research, invention, meditation. For example, if you want to become a brilliant scholar with a wonderful memory, conserved sex energy comes to your aid. If you want to become a brilliant surgeon or a great master musician, the conserved sex energy comes to your aid. Therefore, the wise conservation of this vital energy is given a very important priority so that your other efforts will be successful. What is it that you want out of life? What great desire dominates your life? Do you wish to become the greatest musical genius in this world? Or do you want to become the fastest Olympic runner or greatest weightlifter in the world? For those with such an overwhelming ambition, all other problems recede into the background. But if you do not have such an all-consuming ambition, then everything becomes a problem, and sex also becomes a problem. If you think, let me satisfy this desire first, then I will have a little peace and can attend to my other goals, you are greatly deluded. Satisfaction of desire will only have one result. It will intensify that desire. Desire is not subdued by satisfying it, but by directing it into a higher channel. Therefore, the right way of solving this problem is to rise above it, so that it becomes something not so important to you. If you want to attain victory over the clamor of the senses, you must arouse within yourself a great fire of higher aspiration. Then, what happens? In order to attain that upon which your heart is set, you give yourself so totally to it, that you have no time for other things. You are too busy pursuing your goal. Great scientists, for example, do not have this problem, because they are all the time completely absorbed in their scientific research. They do not pay much attention to food or clothing or bathing or anything. Why? Because they are so interested in something else. After all, what is the hallmark of culture? It is the ability to control oneself. What is the difference between an uncivilized person and a civilized person? A civilized person has gained mastery over his lower nature. When asked what do you think of Western civilization, Mahatma Gandhi is reported to have replied, I think it would be a good idea. The thing is this. At all moments two ways always present themselves before you. One way appears pleasant and very attractive. The other way elevates you, ennobles you, and leads you to your highest welfare. A normal human being is pulled toward that which appears pleasant and attractive, and becomes a victim to his own sensual cravings. That is the way of degeneration and bondage. But one who has self-control moves toward that which is really for his betterment. It may be difficult, but discrimination tells you that that which is difficult will ultimately lead toward your own highest welfare. For these reasons, in the context of Indian culture, total restraint of the sex energy was thus advised for the 3 stages of life: the student stage, the retired stage of the elderly person, and the monastic stage of the last part of your life. And even in the householder stage, moderation and a restrained use of the sexual energy for the purpose of procreation was recommended. The sexual energy was seen as something divine, something sacred, and its function in the scheme of things of the Creator is reproduction of the human species. Moderation and fidelity to one's married partner were prescribed. The married person was not to cast any impure look at another. For the married man, there was only one woman in the whole universe, his lawfully wedded wife. He was to cast no lustful, passionate eye upon any other woman. All other women were to be like mothers to him. And for the chaste wife, there was only one man in the whole universe, her husband, whom she regarded with reverence. Such ideals are not old-fashioned, are not outmoded. On the contrary, they are more relevant and more important today than ever before in human history, because humanity, through neglect of the ethical dimension, has come to the brink of social disintegration. The disease of misconduct is so great that this ethical practice is the one specific and the prime need of humankind today. Therefore, whatever you engage in doing should be that which ought to be done, should be that which is right, which is pure, which is moral and ethical. You should not do anything which contradicts the law of ethics and morality. Why? Because, in morality only lies your highest good, your highest welfare. If your thoughts, words and actions are moral and righteous, there will be happiness. Otherwise, you will reap the harvest of bitter experiences because of a law that pervades this universe, the law of karma. This law states, as you sow, so shall you reap. If you ignore this law and your actions are not proper, what happens? You create your own miseries. Therefore, having in mind the highest welfare of the individual, the greatest happiness for the individual, our ancients put ethics as the foremost value, and they said, this is the way. And it is to be noted that this advice, the great value of right conduct, was proclaimed as the goal of all human individuals born in this world. It was not directed at any particular section of mankind, not for the people populated on this Indian subcontinent only, not just for Hindus. It was for the entire mankind. The supreme law is that happiness follows in the wake of right conduct. This applies to everyone. 5.8 I Shall Ever Try by Rabindranath Tagore. Life of my life, I shall ever try to keep my body pure, knowing that thy living touch is upon all my limbs. I shall ever try to keep all untruths out from my thoughts, knowing that thou art that truth which has kindled the light of reason in my mind. I shall ever try to drive all evils away from my heart and keep my love in flower. knowing that thou hast thy seat in the inmost shrine of my heart, and it shall be my endeavor to reveal thee in my actions, knowing it is thy power gives me strength. 5.9 You are very special. Never despair. You are unique, distinct and unique. In the eyes of God, you are something special. No one can replace you in the role that you fulfill in God's creation at any given place and at any point in time. You are most necessary and indispensable for that particular setup in that particular time-space context. Therefore, rejoice and be grateful to the Lord that He has given a role for you to perform. How well you perform your given role is irrelevant. God expects each one to do only what one is capable of doing at any point in time. God does not expect an ant to haul a great timber as the elephant does in the forest. Nor does God expect the elephant to fly in the air gracefully as parrots and doves and many other birds of flight to wend their way in the open space. He expects birds to fly and he loves them for what they do. He expects elephants to fulfill their role, giving dignity to the forest and doing incredible jobs of strength. He expects man to be man, and each one in his own sphere can fulfill a task and gladden the heart of the Maker and contribute something to his plan on earth. To be aware of this truth is to be worry-free. Things are as they should be. The Lord is in heaven and all is well on earth. This is the firm belief of those who have faith in the infinite love of God, who have trust in the infinite goodness of God, and who are sure that in God's heart they have a special and unique place. This place is ever kept reserved for them and no one can take it away from them because God's infinite heart is large enough to hold the entire cosmos and everything within it. The peace of God pervades the entire earth. The peace of God pervades everywhere, without and within. The peace of God is the one great truth underlying all things. Ever present, ever accessible and available, ever full and inexhaustible. Try to live in the light of this truth, and the heart and mind will be at ease. Never compare and contrast, because there is no comparing and contrasting among unique things. Every little fledgling hatched from an egg is unique to its parents. So is each being unique in itself, for God is the parent of all. Therefore, rejoice that you are special to God in His infinite love. Rejoice that you have your own special place and role to perform in this creation of God. And rejoice that His love is immediately available to you. For He is not a remote reality, but He is the indwelling reality, nearer to you than anything else on earth. And rejoice that within you is the peace of God as your own self. You are God's peace and you have a duty to perform. That is, to spread this peace which you are to one and all. Life to spread this peace. 5.10 Where to find happiness. Everywhere in this universe. In one respect man's condition is the same. No matter how vastly different he may be in the outer appearance of his life. Different countries. Different races. Different cultures. Different languages. Different ways of living. Eating. Dressing. etc. He may be completely different in all of these aspects, But there is one thing that is the same to all human individuals. And it is this factor that binds them into a global unity. If analyzed, it will be discovered that all humanity is engaged ceaselessly, day after day, from the cradle to the grave, only in trying to avoid painful experiences and in trying to attain that which gives them happiness. Yet, beloved seeker, let me ask you this one very important question. Since the time of creation, is there one single individual who has been born onto this earth who can stand up boldly and declare, "In my life I have never experienced any sorrow or pain or suffering whatsoever. My whole life has been a life full of joy, full of happiness, full of bliss"? You will find that there is not even one single individual on earth who has not had at some time or another some type of pain or suffering or grief or sorrow. This is a world of pain and sorrow. With a few minutes thoughtful reflection you will see that this is so. Many painful experiences are brought about by natural forces beyond our control: floods, earthquakes, tidal waves, cyclones, fires, famines. Then there is suffering brought about by other forms of life: germs, microbes, bacteria, viruses, insects, reptiles, animals. But by far the greatest source of suffering is caused by man himself. It is suffering that is self-created, that arises within our own psychological self due to desire and attachment for worldly objects, love and hate, anger and passion, fear, worry, tension, anxiety, jealousy, envy, greed, frustration, disappointment, disillusionment, the sorrow of separation, bereavement, and all other varieties of restlessness of mind due to our multitude of desires. Everyone thinks happiness is to be found in objects and experiences. Everyone thinks, if I could only attain certain objects, if I could only possess them, if I could experience them, I will get happiness in spite of countless disappointments and disillusionments. Man never learns. There is not an iota of happiness in earthly objects. No object is perfect. They do not have in them the power or ability to give you lasting happiness or joy because they are finite and they are imperfect. Otherwise, they must be able to give a homogeneous state of happiness to all beings at all times under all conditions. But what do you actually see? If you like milk and you take a glass full of sweetened milk flavored with spices, the first glass may give you satisfaction. And if you are pressed upon to take another glass, the second glass may give satisfaction. But it is not the same degree of happiness or pleasure as was the first glass. And if your stomach is already full with 2 glasses of milk, if you try to take a third glass of milk, it becomes unpleasant. It becomes undesirable. And if it is forced upon you, a 4th glass of milk produces nausea and you will have to throw it up. Where then is real happiness? If milk had in it the power of giving happiness, it must be able to grant you this happiness at all times, under all conditions. It cannot change its nature. Such examples show that all experiences derived from the contact of senses with their respective sense objects ultimately are experiences that end in disappointment. Therefore, the great world teacher, Lord Krishna, had this very important insight to impart to us when he said, "O Arjuna, all these experiences brought about by the contact of one or other of the five senses with their respective sense objects. These experiences are ultimately the source of sorrow. There is no real happiness in these sense contacts and sense experiences. They are but mere momentary sensations afterwards giving you pain." A wise person realizing the real nature of earthly objects, that they are impermanent, fleeting, empty of content, that they cannot give happiness. Such a person never stoops to reveling in these petty objects of this materialistic world. Yet lasting happiness must lie somewhere. Otherwise the Creator would not have put this inner urge within each human soul. Somewhere there must be a source of eternal and unchanging happiness, attaining which all desires become at once totally fulfilled. Is there an experience which grants at once total satisfaction and eternal bliss, which takes one forever beyond all sorrow, pain and suffering? This is an important question. It was to the resolution of this riddle of life that the ancient sages and seers of India devoted their entire lives. Relentlessly they pursued this quest until they ultimately achieved an experience of inexpressible joy that took them forever beyond all sorrow, pain and suffering. These sages, being filled with universal love for all beings, did not want to keep this experience to themselves. Therefore, they declared to all, "O mortals, striving and struggling upon this earth plane, weeping, wailing, buffeted by the vicissitudes of life here, we have come upon a great discovery. There is something beyond these appearances, these vanishing names and forms that go to make up this universe. There is something beyond which forms the very source and support of all these objects of the phenomenal world. Why do you search in vain for happiness outside? Come, come. Happiness resides within. Stop your wanderings amidst this desert of empty earthly objects, amidst this jungle of sensuality, and turn your gaze within. Dive within. Happiness is within. God is within you. Meditate upon the reality within. They had discovered a supreme reality attaining which one goes beyond all relative experience, all duality, and enters into a blessed state of bliss absolute, a state beyond all sorrow. To attain that state in which even the heaviest sorrow is powerless to shake one is the birthright of each and every individual soul. If wealth is lost, nothing is lost. If health is lost, something is lost. If character is lost, everything is lost. 5.11 The purpose of life. This life here upon earth has a great meaning and significance. Without knowing the significance, you cannot live this life in a correct and proper way. It is most necessary to know the great aim, purpose, and goal of this your earthly life. Otherwise, instead of moving towards this true goal, your life will lose its correct direction and become sidetracked in running after small and petty aims and purposes. This will only result in misery, restlessness, and deep disappointment. There is no greater loss than such a fate. Man is born for the living of divine life here and the attainment of sublime, higher, spiritual experiences. This is a grand, divine plan for each and every one in the human family. You are indeed divine. You are not merely the body and intellect. You are different from the perishable body of flesh and bones and from the mind and intellect which are finite and changeable. You are unchangeable, infinite, immortal Atman, the divine soul. You are only dreaming this agitated dream of being a little, weak, imperfect, human individual afflicted by egoism and selfishness, by desires and cravings, by fears and anxieties, by love and hate, and numerous other painful conditions. O beloved child, when will you wake up from this deep sleep of ignorance? Come, wake up now. Recognize your true identity and enter into a life of joy, peace, and wisdom which is your essential nature. To attain your essential nature is the central purpose of your life. Therefore, live wisely, attain this goal and make your life a true success. 5.12 God is love. How precious each soul is to God is brought out through the parable of the lost sheep. There was a certain man who had 100 sheep. One day, one of his sheep fails to return home. Notwithstanding the fact that he has got 99 sheep safely and securely put back into the pen, this man will take a lantern and go out looking for the lost sheep in the darkness of the night amid the howling wind and inclement weather. Even though 99 are there, what does it matter? He will go after the one that is more precious to him than the 99 he has got, the one lost sheep. So over hill and dale, up mountain crag and heights he will climb and endanger himself, risking his life, in order to find the sheep and bring it back. Such is the love of God, the divine love. This one lost sheep is as precious to him as the 99 other sheep which he has already got. Such is the love, the spontaneous love, the Father has for each of you. The Father is always gracious. No matter what a stinker you have been, no matter what depths of degradation you have fallen in, you may have eaten with the swine. It doesn't matter. All that is nothing in the eyes of the Father. Such is the parable of the prodigal son. When the son willfully went away, the father was so sad. He was pining for the son more than the son knew. When the son returned, there were open arms. Always a welcome is waiting for you, and the best robe, the choicest robe. Go, put my choicest robe upon my dear son who has returned. Let everyone rejoice. There is no parable that brings out the relationship between the individual and God more appropriately and wonderfully than the parable of the prodigal son. This is the relationship between God and the individual soul. That is infinite love, and no barrier can stand between you and He. Only you must start moving towards Him. Ask of His grace, and immediately you shall have it in abundance. In his sight all are precious. As Jesus proclaimed, "Come unto me all that are weary and heavy laden. I will give thee shelter." God is love. If you have devotion to him, all other considerations are swept away. He doesn't care. He only sees your heart. 5.13 Many names. One God. God is all love. He is the ocean of compassion, the ocean of forgiveness, the ocean of kindness. He is the only reality. He is the basis, source and origin of all religions. He is the goal of all religions, even though called by different names, as Brahman, Atman, Jehovah, Father in heaven, or Allah. Yet that supreme cosmic reality is one and non-dual. It is that reality which is worshipped in all places of worship: Hindu temple, Jewish synagogue, Christian church, Islamic mosque. It is the one being glorified in all the scriptures of the world. For before creation was created, to whom did God belong? Before there was any creation at all, when there was neither sun, moon, stars, planets, space-time, world, what to say of human beings? Then what was his name? Who was there to give him a name? What were the words that uttered any prayers to him? Who was there to pray? Why do we fight over names? What folly! Before there was any creation at all, the one absolute transcendental being alone existed, the one universal reality that ever has existed, ever exists, and ever shall exist. It was only when man came into being in the course of the strange, mysterious progression of human history that languages arose. In different parts of the earth, different ways of expressing thoughts through articulate speech evolved. Different terminologies to express the same thing developed. Consider how many totally different names there are for the one element that you drink in order to slake your thirst. In another country, if you ask for water in your language, they may not know what you want. Yet, water is the same. Thirst is the same. You call God one thing, he calls God by another name. But that does not multiply God. That does not make God many. There is only one non-dual supreme universal spirit. God is the Great Spirit. Call him Allah. Call him Ahura Mazda. Call him Almighty Father in heaven. Call him what you will. It is the Great Spirit. And all religions say that you are related to God. This is one of the basic concepts in all religions. In Islam they say, there is the light of Allah in man. In the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, I am the soul seated in the hearts of all beings. Christianity and Judaism say that God created man in his own image and breathed his spirit into him. Therefore, the Spirit of God indwells man as the innermost reality in him. The essence of living a successful life is the awakening of the sleeping and slumbering divinity within you, and doing all one can to bring about its fullest unfoldment. This is real life. 5.14 Great Spirit. A prayer by Yellow Lark of the Sioux. Oh, Great Spirit who dwells in the sky, lead us to the path of peace and understanding. Let all of us live together as brothers and sisters. Our lives are so short here, walking upon Mother Earth's surface. Let our eyes be open to all the blessings you have given us. Please hear my prayers. Oh, Great Spirit. Oh, Great Spirit whose voice I hear in the winds, and whose breath gives life to all the world. Hear me. I am small and weak. I need your strength and wisdom. Let me walk in beauty and make my eyes ever behold the red and purple sunset. Make my hands respect the things you have made and my ears sharp to hear your voice. Make me wise so that I may understand the things you have taught my people. Let me learn the lessons you have hidden in every leaf and rock. I seek strength, not to be greater than my brother, but to fight my greatest enemy, myself. Make me always ready to come to you with clean hands and straight eyes, so when life fades, as the fading sunset, my spirit may come to you without shame. All my relations. 5.15 Essence of all religions. God's plan for us was not just endowing us with a comfortable material life. Then we would only be well fed, well clothed, well housed, academically degreed animals capable only of functioning upon the animal level. What is it that distinguishes human beings? The ability to be compassionate, the ability to feel for the joys and sufferings of others, the ability to wish to ameliorate the sorrows and troubles of others. Animals, instinct bound, are able to live for themselves. Human beings are the unique creatures, the unique animal in God's creation, who can think of others, who can try to live for others. Living for oneself every bird and beast can do. If, while you live for yourself, you also start living for others, wanting to make others happy, then you become human, because this is the essence of humanness. Understanding that what is unpleasant and painful to you is unpleasant and painful to others also. Live in such a way that you do not give such experience to others. Knowing also that those things which give you joy and happiness must similarly give joy and happiness to others. Engage yourself in doing such things that bring about these similar experiences to others. What is religion but fulfilling the will of God in our daily lives as it has been expressed in the wisdom teachings of all the great scriptures of the world, as it has been expressed in the lives of all the saints, sages, seers, messiahs, prophets and messengers which he has been sending from time to time to remind us of his will. Fulfilling the will of God in our daily lives is the soul of religion. Otherwise, if religion is a thing to be confined to some time of the week in some place in our city and no more than that, then our world has no hope of any improvement. It is only when true religion fills us from the top of our heads to the tip of our toenails and becomes part and parcel of the living of our lives, then alone this world can be a place where to live would be a joy. To live would be to love. 5.16 Us. There is something within each of us, within each being, each creature, that is the same in all. This innermost essence knits all existence into a mystical oneness in which all differences are transcended and dissolved. It is when you are activated in the depth of your being that you get the blessing of this oneness. This oneness goes beyond the barriers of creed or dogma or theology of any sect or cult. It is the deepest innermost essence of each individual spirit. It is this inner stirring within the heart of the individual that is the eternal religion. That is the one great power that pervades the whole world, which immediately makes one kin with all that exists. It makes a human being kin, not only with another human being, but even with a blade of grass, or a flower, or a little beetle, or a bee, or even with the wild beast of the jungle. You feel kinship with all nature through this power. It is the power of God's love. And the power of God's love stirs, not in the human brain or the human intellect, but in the human heart. It is this power that makes one give up one's life for the life of another, to do anything for the benefit of another. No sacrifice is too great. A sacrifice is not even looked upon as sacrifice. I lose nothing. I gain if my brother is the gainer, because my brother is my own self. Everyone is my own self, my own reflection, for ultimately, that is the supreme commandment of all the great ones, to love one another. At this moment in time, at the close of the 20th century, let us all make up our minds that whosoever is with us, whosoever is in front of us, is my neighbor, my brother, my sister. Let us relate ourselves to one another by expressing his love, and in this way strive to overcome the clash and conflict, hatred and violence that is so prevalent nowadays, that the brotherhood and harmony of all living being may prevail. 5.17 You are divine. You are a child of God. You are divine. You are essentially an eternal and imperishable divine spirit. You are immortal Atman, the divine soul within. You are not this perishable cage of flesh and bones. You are not merely this restless and impure mind filled with selfishness, anger, hatred, passion, greed, cravings, etc. Neither are you this limited and finite intellect which is many a time prone to error and fails you at the time of need in solving our problems. But beyond body, senses, mind, and intellect, you shine resplendent as an eternal and immortal spirit. Satchidananda, existence, consciousness, bliss absolute, is your real nature. You are an eternal part of the Supreme Universal Spirit whom we refer to as God. He is a cosmic being, the eternal source and origin of your very existence. You are inseparably connected with him in the inner dimension of your real nature, your spiritual nature, which is in fact your true identity. You are in truth a child of God. You are not of the earth. You come from a dimension which is beyond this phenomenal existence. Somehow or other you have got caught in this temporary state of embodiment and encasement and limitation of mind full of selfishness, opinions, fears, and worries. But this is not natural. You must put an end to this. You are a child of God. You are divine. 5.18 The Great Sadhana. Worshipful homage to the eternal, all-pervading supreme reality, beginningless and endless, within and without, above and below and all around. To that divine consciousness dormant in the stone and mineral, breathing, barely sentient, in plants and grosses, dynamic, active, mobile in animals, but gloriously aware in you, the highest manifestation, as purposeful, rational intelligence. To that divine perfection we bow. May its grace transform you, its pure divinity shine through you as all that is sublime, auspicious, beautiful and true, and thus fulfill God's plan. This is Gurudev's wish for each and every one of you. 5.19 Mystical Moments. Somehow or the other these universal souls come. They are the real cosmopolitans. They proclaim the great oneness and brotherhood of all living beings. Over the course of human history, many a time their teaching is stifled, is overcome by dry philosophy and dogma. Yet, in spite of that, it never dies. It is like the grass that is covered over with snow in the winter. Each long winter you think the grass is no longer there. But come spring and the thaw sets in and the sun slimes again and the snow clears. God knows. Sometimes even from within a layer of snow, this green shoot thrusts itself out and is seen. How amazing is this vitality? It never dies. So too with the teachings of the saints. From time to time, during the course of history, always these mystical moments keep cropping up. In whichever race, clime or time they appear, these great minds have ever thought alike. They have borne irrefutable testimony to the essential underlying unity of all humanity. Their exceptional character encourages, inspires, and unerringly guide the masses. By their achievements they indicate the heights that are attainable by right effort. They show what hidden potencies human being contain and what high destiny lies ahead. For in their vision they see in you an immortal spark of the divine. They say that you are part of a universal essence, an eternal cosmic reality that is beginningless and endless, that is eternal and permanent. You have not come here merely to live, grow, eat, drink, enjoy some little sense enjoyment, laugh a little, weep a little, and then one day pass away without leaving any sign of yourself. This is merely physical existence, the realization of your true identity, of your immortality, of your essential divinity. That may be held to be your divine destiny. This great ideal was proclaimed as the goal of all human individuals. For these illumined saints and seers say, "O man, striving and struggling in this earth plane of phenomenal existence, we proclaim to you a great discovery. We have attained an experience which has liberated us from all sorrow, pain and suffering and which has filled us with supreme bliss. We wish that you also share this wonderful experience. Come and listen. What we have attained you can also attain. We have come face to face with that radiant cosmic being beholding whom the mortal becomes immortal. It is that eternal reality alone that can give you true happiness. And that eternal reality is not only a cosmic principle, it is the innermost center of your being. You are part of that eternal reality. Deep within you lies this bliss as your own self. Never for a moment is that bliss apart from you. Never for a moment is that bliss absent. It is the ever-present truth of your being. You cannot know it through the senses because the senses are outgoing. You cannot know it through the intellect. Be silent. Stop thinking. And take your mind within. Know that you are immortal bliss. Become aware of that radiant being who, in silence, thunderously proclaims I am. Know thyself and be bold, fearless and free. 5.20 A simple meditation. Every day, morning and evening, sit silently. Drop the world from your consciousness. Calm the mind. Keep the body straight. Breathe naturally and rhythmically. And raise your consciousness by recitation of a favorite prayer or repetition of the divine name, if you want. Whatever name your religion has to indicate the Supreme Being, repeat that name. All names imply the same thing. Total perfection, infinite perfection, eternal life, unfathomable peace, infinite bliss, all purity, all truth, all light. In this way, connect yourself with the divine. Whatever religion you belong to, you are a child of God. God is the universal spirit. Because you are a child of God, you are also divine. Feel your divinity. Feel your spiritual nature. Feel yourself all perfect, imperishable, ever blissful, ever peaceful, and try to remain in that state of awareness for as long as you can. If the mind wanders here and there, ignore its wanderings and bring it back gently. Focus it back into the awareness of your real nature. Be in that awareness. Feel yourself bodiless, mindless, without name and form, without birth, without death, timeless. Enter into an awareness of the divine and stay in that awareness. There is nothing. There is no time, no space. There is only a vast, timeless ocean of existence, consciousness and bliss. Become one with it, saying, I am a part of that infinite ocean of bliss, peace and luminosity. Do this practice. 5.21 Commitment. Thus, everything has been placed before you, the possibilities, the risks, the dangers. They say, forewarned is forearmed. All the scriptures tell us of all the dangers upon the path and warn of the pitfalls and risks to the human questing soul. Lord Krishna himself says it in the Bhagavad Gita. Triple is the gate of this hell, destructive of the self-lust, anger and greed. Therefore, one should abandon these three. And in the 18th chapter, he tells us, now I have told you everything that is to be known. I have given you all the facts, without reservation. Now it is for you to decide. It is up to you. Therefore, deeply dive within yourself and be clear as to what you are committed to. What are you living for? For what are you prepared to face anything? What are you even prepared to die for? That is the acid test. Are you committed to something very definite, very clear, very unmistakable? Ask yourself this question. Keep on asking until you are clear, until you are absolutely certain about your answer to this question. For according to your commitment, that will be your life. We have to start somewhere. What does Gurudev Swami Sivananda have to say about our commitment? First, be committed to a life where we put service before self. Not I, but all your creation, O Lord, and yourself too. As Gurudev has said, God first, world next, yourself last, because getting caught in the net of selfishness will nullify all spiritual aspiration. In that blindness, we will not at all see what we are doing, and though we will get stuck, there is no more dangerous pitfall than selfishness. Ask, what can I do for others? In what way can I be helpful? In what way can I benefit other people with whom I am living? With whom God has put me? Be they young or old, healthy or ailing? In what way can I be useful? In what way can I help to benefit this planet Earth, which is our great mother and gives us life? How can I help to preserve her beauty and resources and rectify the callousness of modern man? Selflessness and a spirit of service is one principle and objective to which we may be committed in our day-to-day living. Then, commit yourself to devotion to God in daily worship. Commit yourself to discipline, self-control, control of the senses, conquest of the desires of the mind, and unfailing daily meditation upon the Supreme. Lastly, but not leastly, be committed to discrimination, asking, who am I? What is this world? Am I this perishable cage of flesh and bones? Am I this nonsense of a mind that is ever bothering me, ever making me restless, creating complication? Am I this unreliable intellect? No. As scriptures say, neither am I the mind, nor the intellect, nor egoism, nor mind stuff. I am consciousness bliss, part of God. Thus, through discrimination between the real and unreal, through self-analysis and investigation, attain self-realization. So, therefore, commit yourself to all of these as part of your day-to-day living, and commit yourself to the triple principles of non-injury, truthfulness, and purity of conduct and character. Cherish these three great principles: compassion and kindness to all creatures, self-control and purity in thought, word and deed, and truthfulness. Let even death overtake me, but I will not leave these three principles. In this way, pledge yourself to abide by these great principles. Then there is no power on earth that can stop you from attaining the highest, the supreme good, that can stop you from becoming a perfect gem, a rare and unique phenomenon in this world, able to bless your own times and benefit your contemporary human society. May God bless you in this noble endeavor. 5.22 National Code of Conduct 1. Patriotism. Our motherland should be our first and highest consideration. Welfare of the nation is our own welfare. Therefore, let us willingly be ready to offer up even our own life for our country. Let us inculcate in our children and members of our family love for our country, the spirit of patriotism and service to our country and our fellow citizens too. Duty. Our first and foremost duty is to God and to righteousness. Leading a righteous life is the best and most valuable service of our nation. 3. Character. Character is the greatest wealth. A pure, Incorruptible citizen is the greatest asset of our nation. This is vital and indispensable. Therefore, good character is to be given top priority value. Upon this depends our nation's welfare and its future stability. 4. Health. Health is the basis of success. Health is wealth. Next to character, it is the greatest national asset. As citizens, building up character and safeguarding health should be our primary duty to the nation. 5. Virtue. Let us join hand and eradicate the evils of gambling, liquor drinking, drug taking, tobacco smoking and betel chewing. Let us eradicate the evils of bribery, corruption, selfishness, immorality, dishonesty and misconduct. Disloyalty to our nation is crime and unpardonable sin. 6. Public property. O citizen, we are custodian of public property. Let us not spoil, misuse, steal or destroy national property. Let us preserve it with love and care. Let us keep our country neat and clean. This is your sacred duty. 7. One family. All our citizens are brethren. Let us feel this fraternity. Let us all love each other and one another and be united because we are one family. 8. Religion. We must have equal reverence for all religions, creeds and faiths. Let us love as our own brother the followers of our faiths. Let us treat others as we wish to be treated by them. 9. Non-violence. At all cost avoid every type of violence and hatred, for this is a blot on the fair name of the nation. It is soul-killing and cause great harm to our country's welfare and development. It is totally opposed to our nation's ideal. 10. Economy. Let us adopt simple living and high thinking. Let us not be extravagant. Let us avoid waste. Let us practice frugality. Let us share what we have with our less fortunate fellow citizens. This is national virtue that our India needs today. 11. Law. Let us respect the rule of law and uphold social justice. In this lies the guarantee of our welfare and orderly progress towards better India. 12. Ahimsa. Non-injury is our highest virtue. Ahimsa paramo dharma. Compassion is a divine quality. Protection of animals is our sacred duty. This is India's special teaching. Let us be compassionate towards all creatures. Thus be a true Indian. Try to become an embodiment of kindness, compassion and goodness in your everyday life. 13. Ecology. Man and nature are inseparable. Man and his natural environment are interrelated and mutually interdependent. Everything in nature contributes to our protection and nourishment. Let us, therefore, protect our natural environment. Helping in maintaining the ecological balance is our duty. It is indispensable for our safe living and highest welfare. Polluting of public places and polluting of air and water of the country is a national crime. We must make amends of our past lapses. 14. Unity. The more united the people of a country, the greater is their ability to withstand all obstacles and dangers. United we stand, divided we fall. This is particularly true about today's India. Therefore, let us live in close harmony and loving goodwill with all our countrymen. Love of our country means love of our countrymen. This is the most invaluable service a citizen of India can offer to our motherland. 15. Education. The process of education should incorporate within it the imparting of the basic knowledge of India's great culture, its lofty ideals and noble values and principles of living. Our education has to be oriented for enriching and enhancing the quality of life of our youth and students. Thus shine as a true citizen and serve your country best, by the very manner of your life and conduct. End of Spiritual Life. A Perspective. Chapters 4 and 5 of 11 chapters. Thanks and gratitude to the Divine Life Society. The Divine Life https www.7ondaonline.org